You know this guy from his long NHL career, 11 of those seasons with the Flyers, and then his work as a game analyst and studio analyst. He is now an author as well. It's Chris Therien. Welcome back to Philly Pressbox Radio, Bundy.
Great to be here, Chet. You know what? I don't get on many of these things twice. It's hard to get on some of them once, so I get so many requests, especially last year with Flyers hockey. But you know what? You guys were one of the first ones I had, so you asked me, and certainly happy to come back and join you guys.
Yeah, it's actually your third visit with us, so really
third,
happy.
okay.
Yeah, how about that? First of all, congrats on the new book. There it is right there, Road to Redemption. So we'll talk with you about that in just a few minutes. But first of all, Chris, we're going to speak about the Flyers' upcoming season. We're on the eve of another season, and quite frankly, there's not a whole lot of excitement about it. Now, Chris, you're never one to hold back on giving your opinions on things. What has happened to this great Flyers franchise in recent years?
Well, you know, I think it goes back, and I know everybody wants is harder on the new hockey side than they really are on anyone else. But the problem is that we got sold. I think the city got sold a bill of goods, to be honest with you, on the level of the kids that they had brought in here. So, you know, this is going back probably seven years ago. You know, I mean, and you know what, I'm always a believer that if you get a look at a guy for 3 years or 4 years, and he's part of your fray or the guys that you want moving forward, you know, you have a real good hard look at those core guys, and then you got to make a decision afterwards, I think, of like 3 or 4 years of whether or not you're going to keep riding it. Unless they're complete superstar, you know, at 1 or 2, and they're just mired in the midst of having really poor talent around them. But, you know, I just think there's a lot of things have gone wrong. I don't think development has gone the way that any of these players or the teams expected. They're in cap hell for a long time. That's one of the major problems. I mean, you look at this team, they're quite obviously on paper, they're a bottom 3 team perhaps, but nobody has salary cap problems like that. I mean, teams that have salary cap problems like that are Tampa Bay Lightning that will just won a couple Stanley Cups and have been amazing for 8 years. So that's the problem with this team. And, you know, the Nolan Patrick pick at second hurt their development, especially that big guy up the middle. Injuries, acquiring guys that were injured that were, you know, taking up a big heap of your salary cap. It's been a mess, Chet. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you anything differently, and I don't think that I'm being unfair in my assessment. Yeah, I worked there for a long time, but I saw the wheels coming off long before my departure of that team. And, you know, I think a lot of it for me, and I don't like to kind of to dig up a grave or anything, but, you know, I think when you look back at even like a guy like Claude Giroux here, he was here a long, long time, and he was the leader of this team, and there was nobody that was ever better than him really in that span. But to me, he needed to get traded in like 2015 or 16. You needed to take what you had a good glimpse of him as your captain, as your team. It was good some years, and other years they didn't even make the playoffs. They were out of it. So, you know, that was a roller coaster that went up and down for this franchise for a decade. And I really think that they missed the ball reacquiring younger, better pieces for a guy that I think that, for me, I had a pretty good feeling what the future was going to be. You know, with G as the captain, I'd already had a glimpse of it for 7 or 8 years. I didn't need to see anything more of it. And I think a lot of people, GMs and stuff, keep players' individual talent around for their points because sometimes it'll just get you in the playoffs. And, to be honest with you, that keeps your job. You'll keep your job if you make the playoffs. So I don't know, man. It's been a rough few years here, Chet. And I you know, I can't really say that I'd like to say. I mean, that's the one thing. I want this team to do well. I saw how much Ed Snyder cared about the fans and the players I played with and the things that we learned being, you know, Philadelphians and learning from what that crest stood for. But there's a lot of things that have to change, and they have to change quick. And it's a lot of damage and destruction has been done in the last 3 years. That's going to take a long, long time to get back.
And you mentioned injuries. Ryan Ellis probably not going to play at all this season. Sean Couturier is hurt. There's no guarantee we'll see him right away. Now, as far as scoring, among the veterans in terms of forwards, we got Kevin Hayes, Scott Lawton, and Travis Konecny. Joel Farabee apparently is healthy and ready to go. James Van Riemsdyk still around, which is a surprise to a lot of people. A lot of people thought he would be gone, probably should have. Beyond that, though, the casual fans are going to say, who are these guys? So let me ask you, where are the goals going to come from this year?
Well, that's the problem, right? Like you mentioned, some guys there can score, like, you know, Atkins is another guy. Kevin Hayes put up 25 goals one time maybe or something a couple times. But here's the problem. You don't really have a number one line where everything falls in order. You've got guys playing third line guys that are playing first line minutes. And trust me, if that's what you have to defend every night, there's a difference between a top end first line guy and a good third line player. I mean, those goals are not the same. And so if you're another top pair defenseman and you're rolling against Philadelphia, I mean, it's a lot different having to check Kevin Hayes than it is having to watch out for Ovechkin or Nikita Kucherov. Trust me about that one. Nothing against Kevin Hayes. That's just the way it is. He's not going to score goals like those guys are or put up points. So, but when you're thrust in the roles that you're not used to playing, your team is going to end up hurting for that at the end of the day. Nothing against Kevin Hayes. It's just a matter of him elevating in a lineup that he shouldn't be elevating. He's not a top line guy.
I hear you. We need to mention the new head coach, a no-nonsense guy who's teaching discipline and hard work. He's John Tortorella. Is he going to work in Philly, do you think?
I don't know. Look at that picture. I guess if he smiles like that every single night and looks at a ref, I guess it'll sell for a while. But I mean, I don't know. He's a character. I mean, I've had just brief run-ins with him over, nothing negative, just like hello. And when I used to broadcast games, and he's very good to like former players and broadcast. But I think he's going to grow very frustrated here, Chet. I said this summer on our own podcast, Know the Goalie. I said, I don't really think he knows what he has here. And I don't think he had a clue what he had here until he saw it in preseason. And I mean, he even went so far as saying we might have 11 guys that can play in the NHL. He said that, and he says, and the rest of them is probably going to be like a Greyhound bus ticket back and forth to Allentown. He didn't say that, I did, but that basically, there's going to be a lot of turnover up and down between the two teams.
All right, last thing before we get to the book, the goalie, Carter Hart. He's still just 24. We know he's got a lot of talent, but there are questions about the defense in front of him. How do you think Hart and the D will perform this year?
Well, again, Carter Hart is a good goalie, and this is not a, who knows? Chet, there's goalies sometimes that used to say Marty Brodeur was a great goalie because he was only used to getting, 20 shots a game. And, it's hard to stay focused when you're not getting a lot. This kid here might see 50 shots several nights this year, and that may actually help him. That being said, though, it's not conducive, I don't think, to have a kid that is going to be shell-shocked. He is 24. It's part of the development. He's not 21 anymore. So, listen, it's all fair game for the Flyers this year. It's not the players' fault that they're in the situation they're in. It's a collective acquisitions by the general manager and him putting the pieces together over the years. But certainly there's a lot of things that are not lining up. I hope they have success this year, Chet. But I'm not sure that I just don't think they have the horses.
Yeah, well, low expectations. So, anything above that, we'll be pleasantly surprised. Why not? Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to the book. It is called Road to Redemption. For people who, don't know about your off-ice struggles late in your career in the following few years, give them the scoop about, what happened and what they're going to learn from reading this book.
Well, I think, when I started writing, and here it is here, I had got my 20 copies, so I got to get a few out to some media members. But what was great with it, really, Chet, is, when Triumph Books, I guess, had gone around and they like asking people that have been in certain areas for quite a while that have had experiences to share with people in those areas, like your experience as a longtime former pro player with the Flyers or the Eagles or whoever it might be. So as I started out as a hockey book, I shared my story about recovery and, my alcohol use disorder. It really did come out at the end of my career and afterwards, but the book itself has some amazing hockey stories in it. Obviously when you play as long as I did in Philadelphia, you get the Philadelphia flair in very much part of, as I say, it's a Philadelphia story in a lot of ways. And I consider myself in many ways to be like the Philadelphia everyman. I came out of Ottawa. I've been here for so long. I married somebody from South Jersey. My kids are all born here. And, I'm an Eagles season ticket holder and I roll with the fans. I go to tailgates. I just love being part of the Philadelphia community. And I think that's what's endeared me to the people here. But as the book itself, my last year in hockey, I shouldn't have been playing. It was 05, 06. I had really, really, really bad problems with alcohol stemming really from the lockout the year before. I just had too much time on my hands and we lost it. And then, 2 years I'd gotten clean. I went to Caron Recovery Center, which is to me the best recovery center in the world. They're in Wernersville, Pennsylvania, a place that's only an hour and 15 minutes from Philadelphia. So all the things that went around about it, and then aftercare, why did I feel aftercare was so important, which is a lot of the things that I help with now. So, I've been blessed really, as much as things, I didn't like the way things ended the last couple of years or how they ended with the Flyers. I was blessed to have been a broadcaster there. It kept me on the straight and narrow. I was able to work on my recovery and show people the real version of myself, which is what I hope this book does. I think the one thing, Chet, is, I was a partier when I played, and I adopted very much the culture of hockey, and I think that's what it is. So the book in and of itself started off telling stories about the culture of the sport, the Philadelphia Flyers, me in many ways being humbled into the world of hockey, seeing guys like Bob Clark and all these other amazing people when I came to Philadelphia, having a chance to play with Lindros and start my career, and just really how those things came to light, but also how my recovery journey became the preeminent, I think, part of the book towards the end, where I really delve into who I was, what it was, and what I do now in the recovery community to help people every single day with the same struggles I had. So, I'm 11 and a half years, actually more than 11 and a half years sober now. I'm working on 12. I work at Cairn Recovery Center now. I help a lot of aftercare facilities and also people afterwards getting back on the street, learning to live again. You're going to have to drive by your favorite liquor store or your drug dealer that was there before. You have to avoid those kind of things. And that's what I do now. I still love talking hockey. I still love coming on podcasts. But you know what? I was good at drinking. I was good at partying. I'm also very good at recovery. And that's, I think, what this book is. It's got some great hockey stories. It delves a lot into those 90s teams, a lot of some unanswered questions. Some people I get people going, hey, are we going to find out what happened with Lindros and Brind'Amour? I'm like, I don't know what happened with Lindros and Brind'Amour. People I don't know where they manufacture this shit sometimes, Chet, but but it's not a book about that. Yes, there's stories, inside stories, but it's not a book that goes into like ticky-tack stuff or a tell-all of trying to sell someone else out. That's not what the book is about. It's a book that ended up being, as I said, a Philadelphia story, a recovery story, and a story about a guy who played in Philadelphia a long time that people saw from the age of 21. I'm now 50. And I think that there should be more books about this because people like me grew up in your households every single night, and not a lot of people know a lot about them.
We should mention that your former teammate turned coach Craig Berube wrote the foreword for the book.
Yeah.
And you co-authored it with sports writer Wayne Fish. It'll be available October 25th. And how can people get a hold of it, Chris?
Yeah, so you know what, Chet? Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna actually have a page set up on Facebook. So proceeds I'm gonna take, we're gonna donate some money to Sober Living out of the book proceeds. We want to help people that are still struggling on the streets. I will have a page set up on Facebook. You'll be able to either use the regular pay sites, Venmo, Zelle, and we'll also, I believe, have a credit card processing set up as well. Those are just my books that I'm trying to get rid of, so I'm only going to push mine for now. But you can get them anywhere, Chet, at Amazon.com. I think on one of my social medias I posted them before. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the bookstores. And like I said, October 25th. And I will have a book tour as well. I think we have about 6 or 8 dates laid out, and I'm probably still going to add 3 or 4 more over that time. So I really want to get out in the Philadelphia community, talk to people, and just keep doing what I'm doing. That's what I've done. That's what I did all the years for the Flyers. I love being around people, and I still very much do in this capacity. So but if I'm out there and you hear about a book signing, come on out and say hello. I'd love to see you.
Absolutely. That was great. Former Flyer Chris Therien, great seeing you, Bundy. All the best to you.
Thank you, Chet. Same to you, my friend.